Thank you. Well, I said that we had 20 minutes to talk. Hope you have 19 minutes. He stole all my thunder about, I don't know what to say about my history. I was born in Omaha, educated at Central High School, graduated University of Nebraska, took a long, leisurely European cruise from Saturday to Monday, went to work for H.A. Wolff, and then worked at H.A. Wolff until from 1961 till 72, and in 1972 we started Joffe Kully Grossman, and we worked there until we merged with Grace Mayer in 1977 or 82. Yeah, I worked at H.A. Wolff till 77, and then merged with Grace Mayer in 82, and then we sold to Gallagher in 2012, which is Arthur J. Gallagher's national insurance agency. I think it's the third largest in the country. I'm not sure. Anyway, so how do you, a little bit about our insurance and my experience in the insurance business. I started, I was going to go to work and I didn't know what to do, so I was talking to Howard Cooper's father, Bob, and I said, well, I want to be a property manager. And Bob said, no, you can't be a property manager. He says, you can't make enough money. He says, I'm put you in the insurance business. Go down to university and take all the insurance courses, which I did, and got out of the university, and of course knew nothing about insurance. And we started, and things were working out pretty well for us. And then my friend Marty Lehr and I, who had been competitors for years, Howard Kaplan, who was one of the partners at Grace Mayer, passed away, and Marty Lehr and I got together. He came over one day and said, you know, we ought to merge. And we sat down on my car, I think, outside. It took us about 15 minutes to work the deal out. And then it took the lawyers and the accountants a few months longer. But that they had to charge. So we had a lot of, you know, my success and Grace Mayer's success is really the success of our clients. And that's really the story. Well, when we started at Grace Mayer and myself never insured anything in the agricultural field, ever. Maybe we had a doctor that owned a farm somewhere, but other than that, we knew nothing about it. So we had purchased half of Omaha Insurance Agency when they went out of business, and one of the people that was involved with it was a man named Gus Wolff, and he came running into the office one day, and he said, he just got appointed as the insurance, he got the endorsement to insure the cattle in the feed yards in Nebraska. And I said, well, that's terrific. How much does it cost to insure a cow? He says, 10 cents a month. Well, that got me really excited. So I got to thinking about it, and I said, that's $1.20 a year. So I called him back in and I says, how many cattle are on feed in Nebraska? He says, about 2.5 million. Well, then I got a little more excited. And, but it's things like that. We were insuring a little company called Table Supply. Grace Mayer was actually insuring a little company called Table Supply Meat Company. And they decided one day to change their name to Omaha Steaks. And that worked out. And the Verana companies and some of the other large companies, we had my last little vignette will be, I had a guy named Dr. Wayne Ryan, and he called me one day and he said he's a doctor of physiology, I believe, for Creighton, professor. He says he's going to start a little business to measure medical instruments. And I said, okay, and he had a little tiny office across from Garot's Steakhouse, and this thing grew to be quite large also. And that's really the story of the success of our companies, and Mark Stokes and a lot of the people around here that are from Grace Mayer started, and they've all grown with our clients, and that's the story. Now I'm done. Now you're starting.
Thanks, Arnold. You went way into my 19 minutes. Thank you.
You're welcome. Take your time.
Well, personally, I'm humbled to be here. To hear that Tommy and Howard are going in as Broadmoor, I mean, they should name the award for them. And we did business with them and so many who are in this hall or will be. I mean, and you know all the names, the Schregers and the Schlossbergs and Davis and Blumkin and Sturm and Gordman, and there's a lot. There's a lot of you in this room, and we're extraordinarily thankful for the support that we received from the community. We're really thankful for the support we received outside of the community. Arnold just mentioned Streck, and there was Skinner, and there's Berkshire Hathaway, and we did business far and wide. My first client is here, Steve Zalkin from Alomar Uniform, still standing tall. It was really a fun ride because we were involved in people's lives. Arnold had a conversation with me really early on, before HIPAA was invented, about how vital confidentiality was, and it was. We were in the middle of people's personal business, and there were health issues, and all sorts of things, and people could hear anything they want, but they absolutely couldn't hear it from me. Right, Sandy? Yes.
I was the last to know.
Always the last to know. So, I spent a little time at Grace Mayer growing up. I typed some invoices on these crazy, 6 carbon forms, but that had 6 different pieces of paper, and you make a mistake. You have to take the thing out and fix 6 different things and put it back in. Andrea, did you do that? It was crazy. I took pictures of houses and went to neighborhoods and measured houses. Some of the houses were lovely. Some of the houses were frightening. Did that. It was some walking around money. I liked that. I took a job out of college working for a great big insurance company called Chubb. I thought that would be a good way to see what it's like to work for a great big company. It'd also be a good way to see what it's like to look at an insurance broker from the side of the supply. We were brokers. We didn't sell our own product. We made marriages between our clients and the insurance companies. So worked for Chubb, and I thought some people didn't like the big company thing at all. I kind of thought it was okay. I kind of liked it. I went to get a MBA, and they make you take a bunch of kind of basic courses, prerequisite things, management, marketing, accounting, finance. And that's where it started clicking that I could maybe do all these things before I could if I went back to a company like Chubb or another big company. And so that's when I decided I would come back into the business. I was never pressured by my father to come back. I was encouraged at some point to make a decision if I wanted to come back, and I decided I wanted to. What my dad did, not sure why, but it worked, said, okay, you're here, now go with Arnold. And really, I spent a year or two, his office was right next to mine, my father of blessed memory, Marty Lehr. And he was awesome to have around, but he was more awesome once I got to interact with him, and it took a year or two. They kind of kept us apart for a while. So people ask about, family dynamics and how do things go and were there problems. There was family in the business. There was Gary and Howard Kaplan. There was my father and me. There was Amy and John Huruska. But it was a business always before it was a family in that regard. I called my dad Marty. He called his father-in-law Al, and we were there. Our taglines were, for a long time, representing buyers of insurance since 1917, and then in the early 80s or in the mid 80s, we added serious about insurance, or when you're serious about insurance. And they kind of described us. We had a lot of fun. We traveled. We were active in the community, but every day we did go to work, and we were serious about insurance, and we were serious about the fact that we were representing the buyers of insurance because they didn't know what to do. I was there one summer doing something, and my dad put a proposal in front of me from a company called Redshaw. And Redshaw was a pioneer with agency automation, where they would digitize everything, and instead of having to do these 5 paper forms, everything would be in the computer, and it would go right to the insurance company, and they would populate our computer with an insurance policy, and it would go right to the client. It sounded kind of magical. And one of the things that kind of held me back a little bit was reading through this. It made it seem like, and there was lots in the trade press about this, about disintermediation and taking the insurance broker out of the picture because automation was going to do it. It happened in some fields like travel. We buy our plane tickets without travel agents generally today, right? Anyway, this was in the early 80s, I think, and it never happened. It just never happened. Insurance remains kind of opaque. It's hard for clients to get straight to insurance companies without going through an agent or broker like we were. And they've maybe intentionally made it so. So it was our responsibility to make sure that everything, all the details, and some of you have bought some big insurance policies from us. Many of you have, and you see they come in like these binders, and they're huge, and they're custom. So every page in there, every form, and not all the forms are pre-filled. There's things that go in there, has to be checked, and there's so much detail. So that's what we did. We made the marriage with the company, and the client, and then the clients did all the work. They grew, like Arnold mentioned on Streck, and so many of you. You just grew, and we hung on tight. We stuck to business. We stayed in our corner, which was making sure that when the bad things happened, that we're there to take care of it. and to let you know what bad things are out there. And they're not all insurable. And sometimes our clients didn't want to insure things that were insurable, but it was important to have those at least annual checkups to make sure that everybody knew where they stood. You know, a special thanks really to Arnold. It was a neat partnership with my father and Arnold. My father, and they're different people. Arnold kind of brought the party. My dad brought he brought plenty of seriousness to the job. I mean, he was a great negotiator and a strong-willed person. And it was kind of a great yin and yang. And I fell somewhere in the middle and outside. But when he came to the company, it really brought life to it, and that life stayed the entire time. So he was there for the very beginning, and when I left, he was still there. I mean, he was certainly the heart and soul of the company for many, many years. I'm really pleased to have my mom here. My mom was the daughter of an insurance guy, my grandfather, Al Mayer, and the wife and the mother. And she's been there for every step of the way. My wife, Sandy, has been there, obviously. I decided when I was in grad school, Sandy was also in grad school at the time, to come to the company. And she's like, well, I'm going to Chicago. So I flew home, met with Arnold's brother-in-law, Marvin Cohn, bought a ring, went back, and Sandy came back to Omaha. A lot of Grace Mayer friends here today, which is great. I mean, the Haruskas and Mark and Bob and Mike and Dee and Christy and Nancy, and it's really nice. Thank you all for coming. So Arnold talked about how he got into the business through H.A. Wolff. Grace Mayer started in 1917. My grandfather joined soon thereafter because it started as Grace. It was a small bonding. Bonds are like, they're related to insurance, but they're not insurance, and it's a contract to guarantee that something gets done. It's used a lot in construction. And they started on 16th and Dodge. My mom recalls going and watching parades from the window at 16th and Dodge, or Douglas, 16th and Douglas. Then they moved kind of by Mutual of Omaha, moved again to 38th and Dodge, where they owned the building and were there a while. Then they moved for 8 years or so to the Univac building at 71st and Mercy. And then for about 35 years, we were in Regency at the Regency 1 building, selling insurance to the Schlossbergs and leasing real estate from the Schlossbergs. They are now in is it the Bridges Trust building?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. After a real long run in Regency. So we were a happy, independent company. Roughly in the early 2000s, we brought in Mark Stokes, who's here, Shane Bellerod. Both of them were pivotal in building and growing what became our largest business segment, which was commercial agriculture. And Dan Ferris, who started and ran our employee benefits division, which was a huge driver for us as well. They came in as partners, and we were clip-clopping along. Obamacare had just become law, and we were curious to see how the big boys, Marsh, Aon, Gallagher, were going to deal with the Affordable Care Act, which we thought was maybe some dark clouds on the horizon for our benefits side. So we had been contacted a lot about selling, and we were happy and weren't, frankly, very interested, but we took that meeting, and it was eye-opening. It was eye-opening on two fronts. They were a little further along and thinking about that than we were, and had some tools built out. And they were talking about a price to buy us, which I thought was crazy. I really did. And so we sold it. Before they woke up. But Arnold is laughing. But Arnold thought that was the price all along. He really did. I mean, I had a number, and I worked with consultants all the time and was really in the middle of it. And Arnold had kind of back of the envelope, and Arnold's number was the right number, and my number was the wrong number, thankfully.
We just weren't greedy enough.
Perhaps, yeah. The sale was interesting. We learned a couple things. They weren't crazy. The stock was $35.50 when they bought it, and it's roughly $300 now. So
They're still growing.
yeah, but we did learn. There was a time period where we thought, well, everything was going to change because now we're part of the third largest broker on the planet. Not the country, it's the planet. But we did learn that they, like we, still put our pants on one leg at a time. I mean, there's still, you have to work well with your clients and prospective clients. You have to work well with the underwriters. And if you fall, and you have to work well with your team, your staff, your employees. I mean, if you don't have those kind of three legs of the table, you're just gonna fall. So the transition was, it was tricky at times. They used to call it drinking from a fire hose. At least that's fresh water. It was hard at times on our employees. It was hard at times on our companies, and it was hard at times on our clients. But it's worked out well. We have teammates who are still there and happy, and there's clients that are still there and happy, and that's terrific. And they did bring opportunities to us that we kind of cobbled together at times when we needed to in terms of worldwide reach, and worldwide reach is a big thing. Access to certain ways of putting insurance together. But life goes on, and they're really good at synthesizing. They're very acquisitive, and they've done this a lot. I think they did 60 transactions the year that we sold. And they're good at folding them in and making a big enterprise bigger.
Which is why the stock went up.
Which is why the stock went up. Let me see. I think I've hit my main points. I really have. I mean, a lot of you deserve thanks. You were very supportive of us for many years. There's many of you who aren't in here who were also very supportive of us for many years. We thank you all for that. We thank the Federation and Alex and Jay for putting this together. It's like something. It was a call I got, I don't know, several months ago, and it was shocking. I mean, I thought it was, the Blumpkin home or something needed money. What a pleasure to get a phone call like that. But That's it for now. We'll take some questions, if anybody has any. Or we won't. Jay.
Well, I want to thank everybody for coming out, but before we go, Alex is going to grab something for our attendees for the Hall of Fame. Once again, we want to thank our sponsors, our platinum sponsors, Bridges Trust, Belmont, Omni Partners, and JetLinks Omaha. And today's sponsors that are Flood Communications, CFO Systems, and Gallagher. Without our sponsors and without every one of you coming, this wouldn't be possible. Today might be one of the single greatest turnouts in our history, so I appreciate all of you. And if we have a Hall of Fame after Hall of Fame, I expect all of you to be in these same seats. But we want to have John and Arnold come up here and accept their Hall of Fame awards.